Welcome to the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. This show is brought to you by Oakley Trucking, headquartered in North Little Rock, Arkansas. The purpose of this podcast is to communicate with Oakley owner-operators and their families by giving them up-to-date information concerning Oakley Trucking and the trucking industry, from business advice to safety updates to success stories. Also to give an insight to outside truck drivers that might be interested in joining the Oakley family. Hey everyone, this is Jeremy Kellett, Director of Recruiting at Oakley Trucking, and I'm your host for this podcast. This is episode number 12. I'd like to thank y'all for listening to this podcast. Hope you're enjoying them. We are getting a little bit better at doing them, we think, and we've got some good topics we're putting out for you guys. Appreciate your feedback on them. We are getting some requests for things that you want to hear about what's going on at Oakley Trucking. And always remember, this podcast is for our owner-operators and their families to know more about the inside of what's going on at Oakley Trucking, what we're thinking, what we can do to help you. Want to work as a team to make this company better than what it is today and improve every day. So today we got a great episode lined up with Jason Webb and Scotty Crisco. They're in dispatch, dump dispatch in particular, and we're going to pick their brain a little bit and go through some stuff that I think everybody's going to enjoy and find out. You know, it's going to be from booking loads to dispatching trucks to, you know, planning your loads ahead of time to communication, customer requirements, all kinds of stuff we're going to get in here and pick their brain a little bit more to see what's going on in the heart of dispatch, the dump dispatch in particular down there. So if you guys can rate and review this podcast, I'm learning that helps a lot. I'm not sure why, but it's supposed to help a lot. So, you know, rate and review us. You can go to our website. You can actually search the Oakley podcast and go in there and rate and review, and that helps a lot on what we're trying to do and get the word out, and also spread the word to all our other owner-operators that hadn't learned about it yet. So, all right, let's meet these gentlemen first, and then we're going to dive right in here. First, got Jason Webb that has been working at Oakley a long time. How long have you been here, Webb?
15 years.
15 years. Look at him go.
Yep. February 2005.
Fantastic.
A lot of pounds since then.
It happens.
But, you know.
Now, give us a little history on you. Now, before trucking, before Oakley, you were doing what?
So I was finishing up school, and I didn't know the first thing about trucking. I actually grew up, Oakley has a port in Morrilton, Arkansas, and I grew up about 2 miles up the road from it. And I didn't know the first thing about Oakley until I walked in the door here. So,
15 years later,
15 years later, I'm still learning, but, you know, it's been a good experience, been a real blessing. Got a wife at home and, 3 kids. They're 11, 9, and 5.
Oh man, handful there.
Yeah. So anybody out there with children knows where I'm coming from there. They can fill up a schedule pretty quick.
Now, you've been in dumps the whole time you've been here?
Yeah. Started out here dispatching in dumps, sat in between Randy Cardwell and another gentleman, and they taught me the good and bad and everything in between on that.
And now, what do you do now?
So last few years, I've been still working in the dumps, but more trying to stay out ahead of the trucks, booking freight for owner-operators, trying to get ahead of them. Trying to, you know, help the dispatchers, you know, plan their trucks and help them, you know, with anything that might come up, and visit with customers and try to get some new work and keep growing our company.
And you're a St. Louis Cardinal fan.
And I'm a big St. Louis Cardinal fan.
I like that too.
Yes, sir.
All right, we also got Scotty Crisco hanging out with us and going to get a little insight from him. Scotty, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. How are you doing, Killer?
I'm doing pretty good, I guess. Give us a little history on you real quick.
Okay, so, well, I grew up in BB, Arkansas, which is, you know, got a strong Oakley background. I was actually helping my dad. I remember I grew up on a little soybean farm about 10, 12 miles out of town. And we used to haul our soybeans down to the Oakley fertilizer store there in BB and bought all our seed and fertilizer from them. So ever since I was a little boy, I've been in contact with Oakley in one form or another. As far as the trucking side of it, I've actually had 2 stints here. The first time I was in pneumatic dispatch back in, I think I started in late 06, and then came back, went and did a couple different things, taught school, sold insurance. So I've worked in different types of fields, but I always wanted to come back. And luckily enough, I was given the opportunity in 13. So I've been back here 7 years now.
Oh, good.
So I've been on the pneumatic side of it, and I've been in the dump side for the last 7 years. And,
a little bit of difference in those two, isn't there?
Absolutely. Foundation.
I'm sorry, you got family?
I do have family. I got a wife and 2 little girls. They're a handful. I live with 3 women, and I'm for sure low on the totem pole.
Golfing, that's your sport, I guess.
Yep. Me and my little brother, who also sits right beside me in dispatch, grew up playing golf together. Both went to Arkansas State and Jonesboro. Lucky enough to get a scholarship to go up there. And yeah.
Y'all still take money on the weekends, don't you?
We try to. We try to.
Okay, well, good. I tell you, we got 2 good guys here, Jason Webb and Scotty Crisco. We're going to visit a little bit on this dump dispatch. So let's start maybe how do you plan for a truck? I want to start there on just the basics of, I guess, first of all, each dispatcher is going to have so many trucks, and then they're trying to plan for that many trucks. What goes through the mind of a dispatcher when he rolls in here at 7 o'clock on Monday morning?
Well, it's a lot like I'd compare it to, any business that you're in. You got to take your inventory, and so when a guy comes in the morning, it's important to know where those trucks are, where they're at. Are they going to be loaded or empty? And then what the driver's needs are. Do they need to be home for a appointment? Do they need to be home for the weekend?
So are you finding that out on Monday if they need to be home maybe that weekend, or is that something?
Yeah, usually. We've got all, varying degrees of that. We've got guys here that, go home every weekend. And we got some guys that go home very sporadically, and then there's a mixed bag in between, and it changes depending on financial needs or, if a guy's been broke down. So, but all that goes into, just taking inventory of what you got to work with, and then seeing, what loads we got to cover. We've got a, we've got a mixed bag of owner operators and what they do. We've got a mixed bag of customers. I think we probably bill over 1,000 customers a year. So we've got a mixed bag of folks that give us a schedule every week, and we've got some loads that come in like on a big jet airliner and drop in our lap every morning, and stuff we've been working on for a year to get our hands on, and then somebody will call we never heard of. So it's just a little bit of everything.
That's good to have customers like that where you don't have all your eggs in one basket. You got a lot of different customers that are coming in.
Yeah, and I think those loads that Jason's talking about that sometimes come in on the big jet airliner are a direct result of the owner operator himself and the reputation that we've built out there in the industry. And then the relationship between the dispatch and the driver, it's a personal thing, and we will sit up here and try to cover loads and service customers until the sun goes down. I mean, we all want to get out of here at 5 o'clock, but there's been many days where we've sat up here till 8 or 9, and I think we do a great job of hiring the cream of the crop, and us inside dispatch try to give the best that we can, and we expect the best from our owner operators, and that's exactly why we get those phone calls that Jason's talking about.
And so I guess a lot of it, I mean, you go in and you got all these loads to cover most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's times where we don't have any loads at certain points, like it's been recently, but you go in and we've got to place trucks on these loads by the end of the day, and we got to make sure all 400 in the dump division is got a load for the day. And tell us your day-to-day, job that what you're doing when you're thinking about that. I mean, give the owner operator some insight on what y'all are doing every day, every hour. You're thinking about what I got to get done by the end of the day. So are you looking at a list, or what do you got going on?
Yeah. So we're all looking at the same computer, and it's got, all the loads in the computer, and, these loads load at this time or the next day or the next day. And, as a dispatcher, you're looking to see, what truck is going to make the most money for Oakley Trucking and works out for the owner operator. One guy may have a truck here that is X number of miles from that load, and then another guy may have a truck closer, and so in that case, there's, teamwork amongst those dispatchers to figure out, well, what's the best truck for the load, and 9 times out of 10, it's the guy that's the closest to the load that can do the load like we've told a customer we'll do it. And then there's other things that come in play. If it's a load that gets a guy home, well, obviously we want to meet that need and get the guy home when he needs to get home. So it's just a lot of variables that go into it, and at the same time, we're looking at a list of trucks that need a load, and we're constantly communicating with each other because Scotty may have somebody he's talking to about some loads that would work perfect for this truck, and I may have something I'm working on that works great for somebody else. So the communication in the office is key to making that work.
So you said you're all looking at the same computer,
right?
Same loads.
Loads.
Everybody's looking at the same loads in the computer. So Scotty's talking to customers and he's booking loads. He puts them in the computer and then everybody sees them.
Right.
Correct. And a lot of time, and the owner operator, they understand how we're set up here in the office too. It's a big, loud, open. There's no secrets. Everybody's talking. So, not aside from putting loads in the computer so that the dispatchers can see them, a lot of time Jason and I are hollering and asking dispatchers what's our availability, or, hey, I'm about to put in 3 loads out of, Dallas to Joplin or whatever it may be. And, so it's constant communication between, the guys in operations management, the dispatchers, and then onto the trucks. So, but one thing, going back to day to day, I think it's very important a dispatcher it's important for him to have the most information he can from a truck, whether it be ETA, hours available. And, we touched on where the truck may need to be at the end of the week, if he needs to be home on Thursday or whatever. But the more information a dispatcher can have, the more effective decision he can make and plan for an owner operator and effectively use his time that he has allowed to work. So I think that's really important. It's a two-way street there. The truck driver has some responsibility on giving dispatch good information, and then obviously it's dispatcher's it's his responsibility to make good decisions with that information.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil here. So, all right, Scotty, I'm trying to give you this information, but I can't get through to you guys, or I answer the phone and you get me off the phone as fast as you can. It seems like I don't have any time to tell you all my worries or all my information that I need you to know. I mean, does that happen, or is that a
I tell you
problem?
It is a problem. And I'll tell you what I used to do when I was dispatching trucks. If I knew a guy needed to be home, if it was any different than a normal circumstance, for instance, I'll just take Doug Harbor's an owner operator for us. I knew he wanted home every Friday or Saturday morning. Now, if there was ever a circumstance where he needed something different than that, then I would put the ball in his court and remind every morning you check in, I need you, hey, stay on top of me about that. Stay on top of me about that. And then over and over, it sticks with you. But, when a dispatcher's talking to 40 to 50 trucks, yes, it is hard for him to remember that maybe, you've got a graduation on Wednesday night or something like that. So I always just tried to put the ball in the owner operator's court. And plus, it just creates good dialogue because it gives them a reason to make sure and call in every morning and give you good information. Because I got to remind my dispatcher I need home Wednesday night.
Well, 7 to 9 in the morning, you're really at that point, I guess you're just needing basic information. Later that day, you can talk to the guy about what's going on in his world. Is that
You bet.
fair enough?
Yeah. So, one thing you got to keep in mind is, we're still a little old fashioned in the sense we want guys calling in, in spite of Qualcomms and all kinds of technology, we still want that phone call. So, depending on how many trucks he has, a dispatcher's having 30 to 60 guys trying to call him at 7 in the morning. So, one thing I would say is, if you're out there and, you're trying to get in touch with somebody and you tried a couple of times and can't get anybody on the phone, well, we've got like 100 phones in this building, I think. So, don't hesitate to, you call one of us. We're all, working in the same group and, especially right now, we've got guys that have been working at home off and on because of this coronavirus. And, that's, gone about as well as we could expect, but, it's caused some issues. So don't ever feel like you're out there by yourself. There's, we've all got cell phones, we've all got, phones on our desk, just go down the list.
Yeah. Get a hold of somebody.
Yeah. We're going to help you.
Get a hold of somebody. Okay. All right. We're talking to Jason Webb and Scotty Crisco here. They're in dump dispatch here at Oakley, and we're sharing some insight of what's going on down there in the dumps. We kind of hopped around there a little bit on our agenda, but let's just stick with that dispatching a truck, if you guys would, and let's elaborate a little bit on that. We've done a little bit on planning the trucks, but anything in there, well, let's just look at, we talked earlier, Scotty, you was talking about the dispatch procedure, which means probably nothing to our owner operators, but we've had it pounded in our head for years, the dispatch procedure and what we're supposed to go by. So elaborate on that a little.
Well, I like to look at the dispatch procedure as, I think any successful business has some sort of standard or procedure that they go by, whether it's McDonald's or Burger King or Subway or at some point, McDonald's figured out that they could be most effective by putting X amount of ketchup on a bun and so forth. And, they figured out how to make a good product and get it to their customers in a timely, affordable manner. Well, then, I think the dispatch procedure for Oakley Trucking is essentially that for us. And I've been told by the elders here that it was born out of many, 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 many mistakes. And and not to say that we don't still make mistakes and mistakes happen, but we go by that to try to minimize anything bad or that opens us up to any kind of liability or contaminations or whatever, poor planning, what have you. That's what we try to go by. The main thing with the dispatch procedure, the number one thing is, the dispatcher should be asking you, are you empty? Did you check your trailer? Condition of the trailer, and go into the hours of service and go down that road. But
and they can't. So I'm an owner operator, and you're asking me these questions. Well, I've been with you 5 years, Webb. You don't have to ask me if my trailer's clean. My trailer's clean. Well, what's the first thing that happens when we get a contamination or we get to a place and I can't load you because you're dirty? The first thing happens in here is the supervisor says, well, did you ask him if the trailer was clean? Did you talk to him and ask him? So you guys that are thinking that that's redundant and a silly question, there's a reason. There's a reason for this and what we call a dispatch procedure and how we try to be more effective so we do eliminate those problems. And like Scotty said, we've made in the past, we don't want to make another one because just about every one of these guys that make that mistake, they're like, good guys that normally don't make mistakes, you know.
Yeah, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to contaminate a load.
Right.
Run back into something.
So part of the dispatch procedure is your trailer clean?
You bet.
And how are we going to get it clean if it's not? That's something that they're supposed to be asking, especially, and the product you're going to haul next, I'm assuming, right?
Sure.
It gives an idea.
Now, I'll say in the dump dispatch, more times than not, a driver is going to be able to get away with sweeping out his trailer. However, there are products that we haul that may require a wash ticket if it's food grade or something like that. There's some products we haul, like for instance, if you're hauling clay out of Troop, Texas to go to Dalton, Muskogee, Oklahoma, you cannot load that material if your prior product was any sort of coal-based substance. It messes. From what I understand, when they go to cook that tile, it really causes problems. So, there's all kinds of ins and outs, and not even to mention the fact that we've got different types of equipment out on the road. So you might not ever ask a driver who's pulling a steel trailer if his trailer's clean, because it really doesn't matter. But, so anyways, yeah, you're going down the dispatch procedure, and that the dispatcher needs to put the responsibility back on the owner operator to make sure his trailer's clean. And then, we kind of move on. The dispatcher should go over the driver's hours of service and let him know what he's thinking or has planned. And they need to be communicating to one another whether that he can legally do it and get the load there when the customer is asking us to get it there. And if that can't happen, then communication just needs to be given to whoever booked the load so that person can communicate with the customer. So
right. Because you can't, we can't read your mind.
Right.
Dispatcher can't read the mind, and the owner operator can't read the dispatcher's mind. So there's got to be some good communication that happens there, because the ultimate responsibility is customer service, right?
Absolutely. You bet.
And we have, here's where I see things, or this is a long time ago when I was dispatching and load coordinating, but there are some customers and some loads that are very lax. You can pick up when you want to, you can deliver when you want to, not a lot of red tape.
You bet. Just go get
And then there's other ones that, man, you better be paying attention to this one, because they don't want you there early. There's no sweeping out on their property. You better have all your PPE on. Well, as owner operator, I go from the first place that's lax. Well, I'm thinking the next place might be lax. And I go to it, and they just bombard me with rules. So what's the best? How do we handle that situation? What's the best way to make sure we don't make mistakes as a team from Oakley Trucking and the owner operator as a team? Their truck pulling our trailer, we roll in here, we want to provide some good customer service.
You bet. Well, first of all, given what we try to do is give all the information beforehand. Everything that we can tell a guy, we want them to have all the information. Hey, you really need to be on your P's and Q's here, because, these folks are awful picky, and we've got to show them what we hauled last. You got to have a wash ticket. Or you need to go through this gate as opposed to this other gate, because this lady at this other gate or gentleman at this other gate is going to get real upset if they see you. So we try our best to put all that forward going in. Now, we could have a whole another episode about times we've gone into places and not had all the information for a wide range of reasons, and that's where the communication we've been talking about comes into play. We put a lot on our owner operators to be our eyes and ears. So if something doesn't look right, or, if we've mentioned one thing and a guy goes in somewhere and it's just totally different, man, we need a phone call. We may have gotten the wrong information. That happens probably not every day, but every other day.
Yeah, you go load a scrap and turnings, and you roll in there, they're wanting to put small engines in it or something that you're like, this ain't
Army tank or something.
Yeah, who knows? Some of this stuff has happened, believe it or not. So,
and a lot of that can be, it's just simple picking up the phone and calling somebody. Oh yeah, I sent you the wrong deal, or who knows? But a lot of it's really easily correctable on the front end. We don't want to put a guy in a situation where he's having to guess or, do whatever he thinks looks right. I mean, that's not what we're trying to do. We want him to be our eyes and ears and call us if something's different and let us help get things right so we can do right by our customer.
Yeah. And, the difference is, and this is over the years, you hear owner operators make comments of, well, you've never driven a truck, or have you ever driven a truck? No, I've never driven a truck, big truck like that. And to them, like, well, you don't know what's going on out there. And to an extent, that is correct.
You bet.
That's for sure correct. I'd like to add too on that, when the Qualcomm deal came down the pipe a few years ago, I had mixed feelings about it, and I still do to some extent, because I really feel like the phone don't ring in here between 7 and 9 like I feel like it used to. And but anyways, one thing on site-specific instructions that we have tried to go and do, not to get too technical about our computer system, but we can add notes that are specific to a certain lane or specific to a certain customer, and then we can make sure that whatever notes those are sent with a dispatch to a driver. So I think it's really important that drivers know that whenever you open up that load on your Qualcomm, there's more than just pay numbers, empty miles, and pickup numbers. If you'll scroll on down, there's a lot of times there's directions. A lot of times there's like I said, site-specific instructions. We've got all different types of customers hauling anything from scrap metal to roofing granules to cow feed. So I just think it's important, and always, the dispatcher needs to be reading those notes as well. However, I think it's just important to be thorough when as an owner operator, when you open up that load on your Qualcomm, a lot of times there's information on there that we purposely put there to help you. So
that's something they definitely need to. I didn't realize the notes came through on that too, because you're putting in the notes as you're booking the load from the customer. You're putting in these notes that need to be. You're putting them in there for a reason. They
Sure.
need to be translated to the driver when he goes to the place. So that's good. I mean, that's what you got to do, is pay attention so we can give good customer service. You mentioned about that. Sometimes it's got directions in there. Have you guys ever heard of having the wrong address or wrong directions in there for these customers?
No, I think we've got every customer in there perfect.
Yeah. all the load numbers are correct.
What's the solution to that? Is there
I'll
one?
tell you what.
It's a constant battle updating stuff in the system. I tell you, I mean, we've got customers in there where drivers go load every day that aren't even in the system as the correct name. I think we might have Aero Terminal still in there for Watco in Houston. But we do try to update it. And I tell you, the reason we have feedback from the owner operators, a driver calls, man, I'm at the right place, but this ain't called Liberty Tire no more. We need that. Call us and tell us that so that we can update it in the computer. And if there's anything that you did get in there or information you found out that might make it easier for the next driver to come load or unload, then please let your dispatcher know so that we can update that stuff. And, time is money in this game. And as an owner operator, I know you guys know that. And time is money in this office.
Yeah. And
as
if
well.
it takes you 20 miles to the wrong place, we need to know that, and we need to make a valiant effort to put that in the notes and change that, so the next guy on that load doesn't do the same thing.
Absolutely.
And the customer calls and go, Oakley, you got another truck over here. They're at the wrong place.
Yep.
And then what do we look like?
Absolutely.
So we want to do that. I was talking to one of our owner operators, old Jerry Dunbar. He was talking about how he was trying to figure out a way to help change the addresses in the computer. Any of them that are wrong, he wanted to try to help make them right. And I don't blame him. I mean, that's that and the phone number. I mean, it's tough, but not all of them are correct. We're doing the best we can, guys. So y'all keep that in mind out there. We're talking with Jason Webb and Scotty Crisco here in Dump Dispatch, that giving us the lowdown of what's going on over there. We've talked a little bit about dispatching you guys, and And booking some loads, we touched on a little bit there. Planning for a truck. How about planning? I mean, what realistically, I mean, I know the freight dictates it, but what's your goal in planning a truck? I mean, you can't plan a guy for a whole week, right? I mean, with the freight that we get.
Yeah. Well, I think the number one thing to remember is plans are going to change.
Come on now.
Very important.
I mean, it doesn't, it never fails. We'll be in here and
okay. Well, tell us why. That's what the owner operator wants to hear. I might have cut you off.
You bet.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. As soon as we get a plan together, plan's going to change. You can almost just count on it, and that's, I'm not going to get down in the coronavirus express and go into all that, but just, even in good times, you talk about, customer needs, we have customers calling in all the time with different loads, and we, there's times where we change a plan up for multiple guys to take care of a customer. We have, guys break down, we have trailer issues, truck issues, weather, there'll be a time down the road later on this year where that's going to come into play. So I think the thing, what I want guys to hear from us is, plans are always changing. And we know that can be frustrating, but what we're trying to keep, what we've always got in the back of our mind is taking care of the customer and taking care of the owner operator.
And it can be frustrating for dispatch too. When I was dispatching trucks, I would come home sometimes after a bad day, and my wife, my kids, they don't really understand my job. And the best way I could describe it, from sitting in a dispatcher's seat, it would be like trying to put together a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle, and then about every hour or so, somebody coming by and throwing it in the floor.
Yeah.
So,
and start over.
Right. And that's a team deal too, so, and I mean, I know how frustrating it's got to be driving down the road and planning out where you're going to eat, where you're going to shower, and then getting that all thrown to the wind and having to start all over. So, I mean, not only is it frustrating for the dispatcher sitting in here dealing with the variables and the details, we understand it's frustrating being in the truck, having that too. So,
well, it's so frustrating, like you said, to plan my day out. I mean, in just a day, I plan out if I'm an owner operator, and then, here's where I'm going to stop. Here's what I'm going to be tomorrow. I've done, might even be running through the house. I can call my wife. She can meet me. And then bam, Scotty calls me back and, hey, throw that piece of paper away. Because that's what we used to do. Use a piece of paper before, throw that away. I got another plan for you. And they're like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
this guy's killing me. Well, you're hesitant to give them more than a couple of days plan because it could change. And man, you hate letting them down. You feel like you're letting them down. But I mean, from an owner operator's standpoint of it, why can't you just leave me on it?
Well, that's a great question.
Why can't you just leave me on it?
Yeah,
that's a great question. So I think it probably just goes back to making a decision that, that was maybe best for the company or best for the customer, because, and don't think we don't sit in here and make decisions that aren't, that the number one thing is best for the owner operator as well. I remember when I used to meet my new hires, the number one thing I told them, I said, I come to work every day with two priorities. And number one is making sure that you make money. And number two is making sure that the customer is serviced. And it seems as though inside this building, if you can make those two things happen, then everything else seems to fall into place. And I think it's, we work in a unique niche of freight. We're not hauling pallets of plywood. We're not hauling shingles that are going to go sit in a warehouse until somebody comes and picks them up. A lot of time we're hauling stuff that people need the next day, maybe that afternoon. You know what I mean? So that right there is the stem of all the change, because we haul very important freight. So
we've developed a reputation over the years that with customers that I think maybe a lot of owner-operators don't realize, or a lot of the older ones do, but a customer can call Oakley Trucking and in dire straits and need 30 trucks today in the morning for however long, and we get it done.
You bet.
That's a difference in us and a lot of other companies. I think we take pride in making sure that the customer is taken care of, and I think maybe a lot of times owner operators don't understand, and sometimes I don't either. But it's trucking, you know. But you're trying to cover every load that you've got booked for today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is a task that is hard to do, because you do not want to call that customer and let him down and say, man, we just couldn't make it today. Can we pick it up tomorrow? That's like the dagger. We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So
right.
We're trying to cover every load, right?
You bet.
By the end of the day with a truck, or depends on if freight's pushing trucks or trucks pushing freight, or we're trying to take care of an owner operator that day before we leave. And if we can't take care of him that day, we better have a plan for him the next morning, right?
You bet. Well, and the thing about the loads, it's, X number of loads every day that you're trying to cover. Well, that's 400 or 500 or however many loads at the computer. You've given your word to those people, and that's what we have always tried to drill in our heads every day is, your word is all you got. We can, sit around and talk to them all day long and be friendly. But at the end of the day, these people are calling Oakley, because they know we're going to take care of them. And we hear that all the time. I was talking to a guy yesterday. He said, man, you guys, we get we call, all these other folks out in the business, and, we get a lot of, well, we'll see, and we'll have to let you know. And he said, man, when I call Oakley, they just tell us yes, or they tell us no. But it's no him hawing around, and if we call you and say we need 6 trucks tomorrow to do whatever it is they need to do, well, your guys are here, and they're professional, and they're happy to be here, and that just comes back tenfold for all of us, as owner operator and guys in the office, and it's what the owner operator does every day that makes that possible.
Yeah, he creates our reputation.
You bet.
Yeah, and many times there's, what we decide to tell a customer, we will put a customer on hold or tell them we're going to call them back, and we'll reach out to the owner operator and talk to him first before we make that decision. A lot of times we'll be like, hey, get that driver on the phone, find out what he's doing this weekend, X's and O's, or, how much time does he have left? So, and like Jason said, I think an important part of customer service is making sure that you don't need to be telling somebody you can do something that you can't. But it's important for the owner operator to understand that a lot of time, whatever comes out of his mouth and his decision is based on our decision.
Very true. Very true. You've been listening to Jason Webb and Scotty Crisco talking dump dispatch here on episode 12. We'll continue next week with the conclusion of talking to dump dispatch and getting the inside on what's going on at Oakley Trucking. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate or review the show in the podcast platform of your choice and share it with a friend. We love hearing from our audience, so if you've got a question, comment, or just want to say hello, head over to our website, theoakleypodcast.com, and click the Leave a Comment button. We'll get you a response soon and may even share some of the best ones here on the show. We'll be back with a fresh episode very soon. Thanks for listening.